There is a real estate strategy that has quietly made ordinary people very wealthy, and almost nobody talks about it at dinner parties, on social media, or in mainstream financial news. It does not have the glamour of luxury apartment buildings or the viral appeal of house flipping. It does not photograph well. It does not make for exciting content, and that is precisely why it keeps producing returns while other strategies get crowded out. We are talking about self-storage. The self-storage industry in the United States generates over $40 billion in revenue every single year. There are more than 50,000 self-storage facilities across the country, more locations than there are McDonald's and Starbucks combined. At any given time, roughly 1 in 10 American households is actively renting a storage unit. And through every recession, every market crash, every economic downturn of the last 40 years, self-storage has remained one of the most resilient asset classes in all of real estate. So why does nobody talk about it? Because the people who own it do not want you to. Not out of malice, they simply have no incentive to share. When a strategy is working quietly and consistently, the last thing you want is a flood of new buyers, driving up prices and compressing returns. The wealthy have known about self-storage for decades. The rest of the world is just now starting to catch on. Let us start with why self-storage works so well as an investment. The first reason is recession resistance. When the economy contracts, people lose their homes, and they need somewhere to store their belongings while they figure out their next move. When businesses downsize, they need somewhere to store equipment and inventory. When families go through divorce, death, or displacement, the first call they make is often to a storage facility. Self-storage demand does not fall in a recession. In many cases, it rises. That is extraordinarily rare in real estate. The second reason is low overhead. A storage facility does not have kitchens that break, pipes that burst, or tenants calling at 2 in the morning about a heating issue. The units are simple concrete or metal boxes. The main operating costs are electricity, security, basic maintenance, and staff. And many modern facilities run almost entirely on automation with minimal staff. Compared to residential or commercial real estate, the headache factor is dramatically lower. That means more of the income flows through to the owner. The third reason is the lease structure. Storage unit leases are typically month to month. That sounds like a risk. And in residential real estate it would be. But in self-storage it is an advantage. It means you can raise rents quickly when the market supports it. You do not need a tenant's permission. You do not need to wait for a lease to expire. If you acquire a facility that was underpriced relative to the local market, you can raise rents within 30 to 60 days and immediately increase income. This is one of the fastest ways to force appreciation in any real estate category. The fourth reason is the cap rate. In most major cities, residential rental properties trade at cap rates of 4 to 5%, meaning after all expenses, you earn 4 to 5% on the purchase price before debt service. Self-storage facilities in secondary and tertiary markets routinely trade at cap rates of 6 to 9%, sometimes higher if the facility is mismanaged and you can add value quickly. That gap in returns, buying at 7 or 8% when residential trades at 4, is enormous in terms of actual cash flow. Let us talk about what a real deal looks like. Say you find a 40-unit self-storage facility in a mid-sized market. The asking price is $600,000. Current rents are below market. The owner has not raised them in 3 years. You put down $150,000, finance the rest, and raise rents to market rate within 60 days. Occupancy is at 85%, which is healthy for storage. After operating expenses and debt service, you are clearing $4,000 per month in net cash flow. That is $48,000 per year on $150,000 invested. A 32% cash-on-cash return. Numbers like that are nearly impossible to find in residential real estate today. Now, not every deal looks like that. You will find facilities that are overpriced, over-occupied with no room to grow, or located in markets with too much competing supply coming online. Underwriting a storage deal requires the same discipline as any real estate purchase. You need to know your local market, your competitor rates, your population density, and your construction pipeline. But the fundamentals of the asset class give you an edge that other property types simply cannot match. What if you do not have $150,000 to put into a deal right now? There are still ways to get exposure to self-storage returns. the four largest publicly traded self-storage real estate investment trusts, Public Storage, Extra Space Storage, CubeSmart, and Life Storage, collectively own and operate thousands of facilities across the country. Buying shares in any one of them gives you economic exposure to the self-storage sector without the need to find, buy, or manage a facility yourself. These are not get-rich-quick vehicles. They are long-term, dividend-paying holdings that track one of the most stable sectors in real estate. For someone just starting to build a portfolio, they are a legitimate starting point. For those who want to go deeper, to actually own and operate a facility, the path is more work, but the rewards are proportionally higher. Start by studying your local market. Drive around and map every existing facility within a 15-mile radius of where you are considering buying. Note their unit mix, their rates, their occupancy signage. Call them as a potential customer and ask what is available. This gives you real-world demand data that no broker report can replicate. Then look for facilities that are being sold by retiring owners. Many self-storage facilities in the United States were built in the 1980s and 90s by individual entrepreneurs who are now in their 60s and 70s looking to exit. These owners often have not optimized their operations. They have not raised rents, have not implemented online booking, have not added ancillary revenue like moving truck rentals or packing supplies. They are leaving money on the table every single month. That is where your opportunity lives. When you buy a facility like that, you are not just buying the existing cash flow. You are buying the upside, the difference between what it earns today under a hands-off owner and what it can earn under active management. Raise rents, fill vacancies, add a digital booking system. Improve the security and signage to attract better tenants. Add a second revenue stream. Over 3 to 5 years, you can often double the net operating income. And because commercial real estate is valued as a multiple of income, doubling the income can more than double the property value. This is the compounding effect applied to real estate. It is not passive in the early years. It requires effort, attention, and capital. But once a facility is stabilized and operating efficiently, it begins to generate income with very little ongoing involvement. At that point, it becomes the kind of asset that earns while you sleep, the type that shows up in the portfolios of people who seem to get quietly, steadily wealthier, without ever appearing to work very hard. The wealth strategy that nobody talks about is not a secret. It has been sitting in plain sight on the edge of every town and highway in America for decades. The reason most people drive past it without a second thought is the same reason most people stay average. They have never been taught to see it as an opportunity. Now you have been. If this video gave you a new way to think about building wealth, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. Tell me whether you have ever used a storage unit yourself and whether you ever considered being on the other side of that transaction. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor or tax professional. Nothing in this video should be considered financial advice or real estate advice. Always consult a qualified professional before making any investment decisions. Always do your own research.